Chew on this, motherfuckers!
Hey dudes and dudettes, I decided to visit a rusty relic because it was among the first games that I bought with money from my own paycheck. I was young and I had a liability called hope. It was a time period where I bought games that didn't live up to the developer promises or the hype in my own head that maybe the next game will tickle my nutsack in just the right way. So naturally, I keep coming back to this game to reevaluate what's important in my life in the most time-effective way that I know of: voluntary mental torture. I'll focus on the mechanics, but mainly on things that will annoy you in the game. All of them are little ones that slowly chip away at your sanity until you have just enough left to keep going. The semi-linear story is an afterthought and is made to familiarize the player with the mechanics rather than convey a major narrative importance, so don't worry about any spoilers. However, the voice acting sound quality is good, even though it gets repetitive, just like everything else in the game. I'll mention some development shenanigans and drama at the end. Now, let's get into the review. Давай! When you first launch the game, you'll most likely wonder where the intro sound of the game is coming from. A pocket dimension will open that will allow you to change the resolution to match your post-2008 monitor. Make sure you match the exact resolution, otherwise the mouse won't respond properly when you click in-game. If you feel it is the first time, use the WASD and space keys to navigate the menu and rectify the decisions you regret. Yes, we're off to a great start. There are 3 game modes included: the main story, breakout, and lifeline. Let's go over them. State of Decay is a walking junkie simulator posing as a survival game on iron mode, where everyone tries to make the best out of a situation. And you feel this especially when a horde of zombies spawns right behind you, or when Lily straight up tells you to get her more drugs so she can deal with everyone's bullshit.
So you're saying those things are zombies?
I don't know. Maybe it's some kind of messed up supervirus. Maybe it's radiation from outer space, or black magic, or the wrath of almighty frickin' God. Your guess is as good as mine.
The main story is where you'll want to begin if you're a new player. You start at a low difficulty and you go through a comprehensive tutorial area that explains the basics of the game. There's even a how to play section available in the menu that explains the commands. They're super simple, beginner friendly, and they stay that way, with no way to turn off the tips and hints in game, which is the first thing that you'll notice when you get used to the controls. To turn the majority of them off and reduce the clutter on your screen, you have to download a mod. I suggest doing this after a few hours into the game, as looking at the tips will help you get acclimated. The progression system is incredibly simple. You keep doing one thing such as running, looting, or fighting, and you get better at it. There's a limited amount of playable characters in the game, so once somebody dies, that's it for them. You can go back, pick their crap up, mourn at camp for about 5 seconds, and life goes on for everybody else in your constantly depressed community. There's no manual saves in the game. You make a decision and you live with the consequences, which is a great touch for immersion and getting the player familiar with personal responsibility both in and out of the game, which is how you know the publishers haven't played the game. You start off as a dude who just got ambushed by a bunch of zombies that can barely walk. Together with your neurotic friend, you move into buildings to loot supplies, guns, ammo, food, and drugs. Mainly drugs. Oh, and you'll do a lot of drugs in order to survive, because doing drugs is healthy.
Cocaine's a hell of a drug.
The friendly AI is unreliable, and the only thing that you can sort of rely on them is to follow you around as a pack mule. Just like your co-workers, sometimes they do the things that you want them to, most of the time they don't. Almost everything you do makes noise, and the zombies have super short sight, but they can hear through multiple walls. You will have to balance your use of weapons to keep them from breaking, and plan out your routes to get to a place where you will find supplies. For combat, 4 blind boys you'll probably be able to take on, even if you don't know what you're doing. 8 blind boys is a problem, when all you have is a melee weapon and no drugs or food, especially if they're high on ecstasy. After you calm down from your spiritual trip, you and your friends end up at a church to confess your sins. You're introduced to a base management system where you can build structures that will assist you in your supply runs. You can create facilities to craft items or ones that give you a passive bonus to health, stamina, and faster ability improvement. You will not be able to have all types of facilities in one location, so you will have to choose a build prioritization of your base according to how fast you want to expand your drug empire. Давай, Ivan, faster! The bases have built-in facilities that you cannot demolish or upgrade. This will probably become annoying the more advanced you get, as it limits each base on their potential. The crafting and building system in the game will seem too long, since it takes at least half an hour to build something, with a few exceptions. But the game sort of compensates for this by a construction resuming process even when you're not playing the game. This brings up the random surprise feature, the off-screen progression, where an effective way to get ahead in the game or lose progress is to not play the game. Your community will loot the nearby areas for random things, and sometimes your members will die because you decided to stop playing the game for an hour. I get that they were going for increased immersion, but the implementation feels like they wanted to give the player a silver medal just for existing and then take a gold medal away after an hour. However, I'm running a drug farm in a post-apocalyptic world. I don't want to make it sound like I'm complaining for a few extra bottles of morphine in exchange for Rob. He knew what he signed up for. The main resource for trading with your own base and others will be influence. You can get influence by exterminating zombie infestations, hordes, collecting supplies, completing missions, or saving someone that's too incompetent to come home. Lifeline is the second story mode that gives you a little insight into the military's lore. You're located in a makeshift military base of a city that is supposed to be evacuated. You're tasked with extracting valuable personnel that have or might have information on what is causing the people to want bath salts so much, and why some of them are getting diabetes. I found the map design to be awkward about 10 minutes of playing, and it feels like moving around in a 4x4 box with too many constraints on what you can do. The highlight of this mode is that you're not dependent on supplies so much, because you can use the helicopter to ship them to you if you have military clout. And you have guns. Lots and lots of guns. The mode you will probably spend most of your leisure time in is Breakout. This mode gives the replay value of the game, and I think it is the core of the title, because it's a sandbox mode. The map is the same as the main story, but it has only side quests. You may choose one difficulty level out of 100, but I never got past 7, so I cannot confirm that there are 100 levels, which are procedurally unlocked as you finish the previous one. You spawn at a random location, and you need to find a home site where you will purchase property. I know this may seem impossible, especially for Canadians, however, I believe that you can do it. Eventually. After that, it is a choose-your-own adventure scenario, where you end it if you choose to drive away with the RV that Lily helps you find almost immediately after you've settled in.
That's it. We're full up. Unless someone wants to ride on the roof. Whenever you're ready, I'll pack up the radio and go.
Okay, got what we needed. Let's roll.
When you choose to live with several survivors or alone, the area is reset. You advance to the next difficulty level and start Breakout all over again. There's immense roleplay value in this game mode. In fact, it depends on it. And at the same time, it is a major grindfest. I think gamers shouldn't let a game play them, and this game crosses a fine line between a chore and a tool to have fun or learn. Which is why I have over 200 unrecorded hours on top of what Gaben says. I play this game as a zombie exterminator, and the mods I use will be in the description. I think they removed the grind part of the game and helped me focus on the aspect where the game shines. The modding scene for this game is dead, and most of the mods are incompatible with each other because they added the same files. Most of the mods don't work or simply work partially. If you're looking to find and install the ones that do work, be ready to troubleshoot for days. I've installed all of my mods using Vortex Mod Manager, however, it's likely that you will have to install some of them manually. I've compiled a short list of mods that I tested and used that will be linked in the description. I think they will add value to your playthroughs if you're mainly interested in base building and shooting zombies. Just like my voice, the sound choice is mainly melancholic, and the more you play and listen, the more it will distract you from your Sigma grind set. It blends into the empty environment better than you'd expect from a game with too many glitches to list. Have a listen.
It's done.
Damn, I'm tired.
One element of the game that will make you feel less alone while wandering is Lily. She will remind you of the objectives that you need to do, and she keeps the player alert and calm at the same time.
So, I've been thinking about a lot of stuff lately, and something occurred to me. We don't know squat.
I got no fucking clue.
I mean, when it comes to long-term survival. Like, I've got my dad's old notebooks, and I'm sure some people here have at least worked on a farm, but if we had reference material, we could do a whole lot more.
Okay.
Well, since we don't have the internet anymore, I'm thinking we should start assembling a reference library. Books on gardening, electrical engineering, carpentry, anything we can get our hands on. We gotta start somewhere, right?
Or she will straight up annoy the bejesus out of you, removing some semblance that the world is in a state of decay, and perhaps there's hope out there. If you ever wonder how she can maintain such a cheerful personality while everyone around is morbidly depressed to the point that they ask you to shoot them in the head, remember, she sits on a chair all day in the base where you keep all your different pharmaceuticals which she needs for her super serious condition. I just shot a person in the head from point blank, Lily. We both need this high right now. Now, why am I even talking about a game that nobody searches for? Is the trending release practices of unfinished or reshaded games in the past decade that's worrying. Microsoft did it before Cyberpunk made it cool, and they're probably going to do it again. This is an old looking game, even by 2015 looking standards. It was the first game developed by Undead Labs, and I like it. But I'll quickly mention some development shenanigans to give you a little lore of the community atmosphere at the time. The original owners of State of Decay with all the DLCs could rebuy the remastered version if they wanted to play it at release, which came out roughly a year and a half after the main game, that had mostly reshaded minor glitches and bugs for the new generation of gamers with hope. If you bought the original game with all the DLCs, you could buy the minor bug reshaders for the full price again. To put it mildly, the community was pissed for how the release and bug reshading of this game were handled, especially with the re-release. This is standard practice by now, and reshaded Skyrim is releasing for the 1, 2... Hey Todd, how many times are you gonna release Skyrim? Hey.
Hey, you. You're finally awake. Are you gonna buy Skyrim again?
I'm highly disappointed that they didn't give the zombies tracksuits. Seems like a missed opportunity, since they clearly had an idea to change some NPC clothes. But hey, at least it appears as if Xbox Game Studios learned something and did something better with State of Decay 2. To be fair, they did give a free reshaded edition copy to the original owners 4 years after the game released, to promote the new State of Decay, because they milked the old one dry. I've put a couple of links from players that talk about it in the description if you want to read more about the general idea of what happened. And I believe that reading it will help you detect possible gameplay flaws when buying any game in the future. However, I do wonder, what will they call the remastered State of Decay 3 edition about 2 years after its release? I still think there's some value in playing this game, but to find it, your expectations must be set for all 3 game modes, and your modern game standards lowered. All things considered, I think it's an okay game, because it's extremely fun, sometimes. Despite zombies spawning out of thin air, the terrain being so irregular that walking or driving in a straight line will cause you to stop, or you can crash your vehicle because the rock the size of 2 Siemiczki was on the road. The vehicle handling and speed is horrible, and you're probably going to have an easier time learning how to drive an actual car. The total story playtime of 12 to 20 hours is bland but decent. However, the game compensates for this with the soundtrack and the main feature of a zombie game, incentivizing you to kill more zombies than you initially wanted to that day, and making you feel good while doing it. The tutorial section of the game is great, because it summarizes almost all the mechanics that you need to know in the game within the first 40 minutes. Not that there's a lot, or that they're good, or polished for that matter, but it does the job well. The characters are not fleshed out, but are giving enough characteristics that you can roleplay and craft the type of person that they are in your head. Overall, I don't recommend this game, but you'll probably have fun if you pick it up. If zombie killing is the only thing that you're looking for in a game, and you can tolerate or like grinding, but get it only when it is on a huge sale, mainly due to the game feeling outdated, the plotline being forgettable, and a lot of annoying minor glitches that could have been solved or prevented in development. And no memorable characters apart from Sasquatch and Lily. I wanted to love this game and franchise for all the things that it could be, and perhaps I do. Unfortunately, the possibilities of what could have been are all in my imagination, and perhaps that's all what gamers need. Thanks for watching, dudes. Hope you found this informative and my pain somewhat entertaining. Have fun and have a beautiful day.
Do not forget to entertain strangers, for by so doing, some have unwittingly entertained angels.
How about that? I might be an angel.
There you
And
go.
whoever your favorite
spin it all
football
in one
team is, they're a
place.
bunch of pussies.
Sweet.